I'm Scott Al Miller. This is my life living in Leon, Nicaragua. We are live on Saturday, February 7th, and we're doing a live today without any planning because I've been on the beach working all day. It's 4 o'clock. I'm already pretty tired, and we have an emergency run. I need to get Marcella to the hospital in Managua. So my phone is charging up because I need that charged before we go because I don't have a good way to charge it in the car, and it's at 83%. So we're going to do charge to charge up. We got 17%. To charge up, and that's how long we're going to be doing the show, and then I'm out of here. So that's all we're doing. We're keeping it on the light side this time, and I have books on Audible being downloaded, so I have them ready to listen to while I am in the car. Just making sure I've got all that completely ready. And all right, so I'm going to go through some of the recent comments because that's what I have at my disposal while we have this time. Of course, if people hop on and want to say hi and want to ask questions, of course, we're happy to do so. But very limited time resources today, very time boxed. So before we get started, I'm going to remind people that we do have Nicagram, and if you're interested in having a place to post and share and view photos of Nicaragua or your trip to Nicaragua or people who are interested in Nicaragua, other people from the community, or to have a place to get into the Fediverse and specifically the Pixel Fed part of the Fediverse, then I encourage you to go to nicagram.com and sign up. It's completely free. It does take a little bit because we do curate. I'm just going to put nicagram.com in the comments on the side. So if you're watching the chat, just go look there. It's nicagram.com and completely free. Go apply for an account, and it normally takes a day or two because we try to keep all the bots out, but it's a great place to kind of have that old Instagram experience. No videos, no ads, there isn't the algorithm. It's just what you post and the people you follow. But anyone anywhere in the Fediverse, if you know someone on a Pixel Fed server in Costa Rica or in Spain or in the United States, you can follow them. It's federated, so you can follow people in other regions on other machines. So, free thing. Really like it when our community jumps in there and gets involved. And it doesn't have to be your pictures from Nicaragua. It's a Nicaraguan-based system. Every country pretty much has one. Brazil has a popular one. Germany has a popular one. Always trying to get the Nicaragua word out there a little bit more. And some of you know my Flickr account was censored this week. They didn't give any real reason. They gave a false reason, which is a pretty good indication that they were pressured by the government. I was the main moderator for all but one of the Nicaragua groups, and I was responsible for something like 95% of the photos of Nicaragua, and my Flickr account was anything but idle. It actually makes my YouTube channel look like nothing. About 140 million views is what I had when they took it down. So things like Nicagram and other decentralized tools that are not controlled by big U.S. corporations that answer to the government is a very important thing to have, just in general, right? Let's help protect everyone against these things. So the more we get the word out there, the more we have an opportunity for people to benefit from it. So just going to start going through comments. Let's see, sort these by newest, make sure I'm getting stuff that's actually relevant. Expozaz, who's often on the live, nos vemos en la próxima video. See you in the next video. We did have a very popular video. If you haven't watched it, luxury apartment tour in Managua. It's short, but it does take you through this apartment that I really like there. I definitely check that out. All right, on is moving to Nicaragua easy? Someone, Luis Antonio Lopez Wagner, 1692, said, way, no one, Livington, everyone speaks English. I'm not sure what that means, is the only response I have for that. Brent is here. Hola desde rainy and cold Seattle. It's pretty warm here today, I would say. I feel. We did a Las Colinas hotel pool. Alan asked, how deep is the pool? I hate when there's a pool and you get in and it's only to your knees. But unfortunately, I don't know how deep it is because I never swim. On preparing to move to Nicaragua. DD Earl Boss. DD. Yeah. Hello, Scott. My name is Yannick. I've already asked for your email. You gave it to me, but it does not work. I am French, and I come this day to Nicaragua. I would like to buy one farm. I would like to meet you or contact you to ask questions. Thank you for your answer. My email is in the notes of every episode, so you can check it there. But it is Scott at LatinAmericanLiving.com. I'm really surprised by the number of people who ask me. I mean, this is a really regular question. What is my email? Considering I post it in the show notes of over 1,000 episodes, right? Like, it's everywhere. Fond Royer 2NPC, who's posted a number of times on preparing to move to Nicaragua. Put this in I still have a little bit of a cough, but my pneumonia is mostly done. But I still have a bit of a tickle, especially when I'm doing like this. And it's been a long day already. I'm going to call him Fod Royer. I don't know how to pronounce anyone's handle. I'm planning to leave my country for Nicaragua. I'm looking for a multi-unit homes to make both property and rental income. This must validate investment residency program. Do you know how much it can be in Leon and how to find them? Okay, so let's talk about this. First of all, the place where you live does not qualify as and he's not saying it does. I'm just for people. It does not qualify for your investment residency. You have to do $30,000 minimum investment into a business. So if you're going to be living in that property, that's generally okay. I have lived in a property myself that later counted, but it did not count while I lived in it. No connection though, so maybe it would have. It needs to be a full business. So assume if you're living in it, it's going to be a little bit of a problem. Whatever you're going to do, you're going to have to get it verified by Intour, that's the Department of Tourism, before you start the process. So you need to start with them. And you need $30,000 put into the business plus real employees, right? Just investing is not enough. It has to be investment with a real business that is approved, with a real physical office, with 2+ employees, a physical location, doesn't have to be an office. So, doing a multi-unit rental will be difficult, simply because you'll have to have a minimum of 2 full-time tax-paying staff on a property that you're living in. That's doable for sure, right? I have more than that at my home here. I have more like 4. And that's just for my home. That's with no rentals. So it's completely doable. But if you're looking at this to be a profitable thing, those incomes come out of any potential profit. So a multi-unit home that you're living in, your home portion obviously isn't making money, and that staff isn't making money. That you got to make enough money to cover all of that. So that could be difficult. Obviously, when we're talking multi-unit home, we're talking something like a duplex, or we're talking condo building, or we're talking a hotel. So the biggest problem is that those are lean when it comes to Nicaragua in general, Leon especially. They do exist for sure, but there's not a lot. Those that do exist are often custom build, so you're going to struggle a lot to find one. Creating one, not too hard, but finding one is going to be very hard. Some things that I would guess is that you're probably going to spend, and also these prices will be wildly different. If you're looking at doing that right in the center of town, that's going to be $250,000 to $500,000 pretty easily. If you're looking at doing that on the outskirts, that could be $40,000 to $100,000 quite easily. So it really depends what you're looking for and where you're looking. The range is going to be incredible. But the hardest thing will be finding one. I can give you whatever range that they could come up in, but you could spend 6 to 12 months looking for a place and maybe only find 1 or 2. So the ranges may feel pretty disconnected from reality because you won't find 100 properties and see a distribution on a curve of the different prices, what you're going to find is one person with no comps asking for a random amount of money. And that will give you no indication. But most people then go, well, that's an indicator. That's not, right? What someone is asking, especially in this market, is not an indicator of what things cost. So it's very, very difficult for me to say, because I don't have enough information, but very difficult for you. You could be doing this for years and never establish a good idea of what it should cost. I can say that making money on that would be very, very hard, right? Because you have your portion of the home that you're going to be living in that's not making money. It's losing money in a way. How many units are you going to have? What's the largest multi-unit that we have here? Multi-unit apartments and condos are rare. Yeah, I know one here in Sutiava has 4 units, but I can tell you it rents with 4 units. The owner is in one of them, and the other 3 rent at $180 per month with 0 staff, right? So they have a total income of the largest unit like this that I know of in this city. Has 3 income units at a total of $540 per month. But if you were to do this, you would have a necessary minimum of $480 per month in labor that you have to pay, and then taxes on top of that, and then any cost for maintaining the property. You can see quite quickly that would be a loss. Now, maybe you're okay with a loss, but that would be difficult. And it's also difficult because the investment may not allow that to qualify. It may, but it may not. But if you're thinking of it as rental income, it won't be in this case. Now, it would potentially offset quite a bit of putting an investment into it, but you're also not going to build that for $30,000, right? That's probably much closer to $100,000 that they built that for. Probably a little bit less. Probably $90,000 is more reasonable. If you were to build 4 standalone houses of the same general layout, you could probably do that for just a little over $100,000 in a slightly less desirable space. So that's kind of where the price range goes. The apartments are very similar to standalone houses. So you may have no problem hitting the $30,000 and them being happy with it, because it's clear that your portion of a multi-home in that case would, even if you took a quarter or half the building away, the rest is still an investment. But if that investment could easily be retransferred into a home, they may not count it. But having it operate like a real business with at least 2 people working there is absolutely a necessity. So I think it's going to be all but impossible for it to be this type of unit and to make profit. It's just going to be very, very hard. But it would get you investment residency, potentially, if done correctly. How to find them is always the same answer. You move here, you live for a couple years, and you spend a ton of time going around the city to see what there is, learning the market, and getting to know people, making connections. That's how it works. There is nothing that you do. No, don't ask any questions. Don't make any assumptions. Don't start looking into anything. Do nothing until you've been living here. Right, so your current status is, I'm planning to leave my country for Nicaragua. That means that the rest of the question, I'm looking for a multi-unit home, that is absolutely minimum. And I will say, I keep saying there's these fringe, no, 0 exception, none whatsoever. Don't start considering these further questions for 2 years minimum. And living here for 2 years, you will immediately say, wow, yes, we have to tell everyone, wait for at least 2 years, right? You will have no ability to gauge how much something is worth. You will be completely railroaded and gringo priced by every person you meet trying to convince you that I'm wrong. Everyone will try to convince you that a place that I say is worth $80,000 is actually worth $400,000. Everyone is going to try to convince you that when I say wait 2 years, no, you should buy immediately. When I say that the real estate market hasn't gone up in 7, 8 years, they're going to tell you, oh, it's all just flying off. Everyone you speak to is out to fleece you. Everybody gets paid if they get you to spend money. And if they get you to spend more than something is worth, if they get you to spend it when you may not spend it if you knew better, they get you to spend it with them, they cash out. So if you start asking these questions, to me, I will give you the right answer, right? Which is don't even ask these questions. But if you move on and keep asking these questions, just like going to AI, which is guaranteed to give you an answer, informed or not, everyone you speak to will be heavily incentivized to take advantage of you. And even if some people are willing not to take advantage of you, they're not going to go out of their way to protect you because you've been protected, right? You've been given this information. I have a playlist that explains this. Please, if you have not watched it, go watch all of the real estate playlist. Every single video gives you warnings. I think I would be really shocked if there's a single video that didn't protect you from these questions. But you really need to watch all of them because it builds the picture to understand the underlying market pressures, the trends over the years, the reality of pricing on the ground, why we can't do comps, why there's only one process for finding anything, why you have to wait 2 years. All of that is built into that playlist at this point, and it gets really deep. So please watch that, and that will explain these things. It'll also explain why I can only give you a massive range of prices beyond the reasons that I already give. Eddie Man, or however it's pronounced, who's commented a number of times, he says, I'm still here in Esteli. Whenever I'm planning on leaving, I end up staying longer. The people, food, prices, just can't beat it. Plus, I'm getting some cavities done with a superb dentist here. I highly recommend the guy. He's 2 blocks down from Hasta Luna, Francisco, I think. The prices are so affordable, it's laughable compared to the U.S. dentist prices. Can't miss his place. It's pretty obvious, about 2 blocks from the Hasta Luna, walking towards the stadium. All right. Jay Brinkman. Hi, Scott. You probably covered this, but I searched and don't get the answer. I traveled in my career, but never to Central America. I want a soft landing plan, a home base area to work from, travel from, to explore places. I lived most of my life in the mountains of Colorado, now Tennessee. Grew up on a farm. I'm 72. Enjoy your videos. All right. Discussing on the live stream. By the way, guys, for those who missed it at the beginning of the live stream, I have to run Marcella to the hospital today, and I'm only here doing the live stream, 1, because I haven't done a video for today yet and I had to get one out. 2, I've been working on the beach all morning with Channel 8, who's been recording at a bunch of places on the beach, and so I had to be there. And 3, she needs to get to the hospital, but I have to have a charged phone. My phone is charging, it's at 91%. When it hits 100, I'm out of here. So that is why we're doing a live stream and why it's moving fast. So just everyone who wasn't on when I said that before, that's what's happening today. But discussing on the live stream, boom, and what's our timestamp? Timestamp is 18 minutes. Timestamp 18 minutes. So, never been to Central America. This is Jay Brinkman. And looking for a soft landing plan. So I generally say, 1, don't worry about a soft landing, right? I have some videos where I'm like, don't do a soft landing. Yes, for the first weekend. Come in for the first week, go to Granada. If you're really looking to do a lot of travel, you want to do a lot of exploration, assuming he means not just Nicaragua, but the region. And it's a fantastic region. I don't just love Nicaragua. I love the places around Nicaragua. One of the reasons I like Nicaragua so much, yes, the people, yes, the safety, yes, the prices, yes, the lifestyle, yes, a lot of things, not the weather. Still better than back home, though. -5 at my dad's place this morning, right? So while this isn't my favorite weather, it's really far from my least favorite. Let's make sure that that's clear. People are often like, how do you put up with the weather? I'm like, are you serious? My entire life was worse. All of it. I've never lived full time, like permanently in any remote way in a place that had better weather. I've lived in places where I love the weather, right? Southern Spain, Crete, like weather was fantastic. I lived in places where the weather isn't fantastic. Transylvania, Kiev, New York, Texas, Virginia, Maryland, and so forth. But I'd take the weather here, not over Spain or Italy or Crete, but over most anywhere else I lived. I really like the even keel, even if it's hot. I'd prefer Irish even keel, but I'll take this one. But assuming his plan is to have a base within Nicaragua, to explore Nicaragua, yes, but assuming also to explore Central America and potentially slightly larger, Mexico, Colombia, stuff that borders Central America, I'm actually going to say, yes, do the soft landing for 1 to 2 weeks in Granada. That's the tourist hub. That gives you the most decompression. If you've never been to Central America or the region at all, that takes the most pressure off, where you're just like, whoa, this is chill. People are friendly. Everything's easy. And everything seems really cheap. Once you go to the rest of the country, you realize that wasn't very cheap. This is cheap, right? But it seems pretty cheap. It's not like San Juan del Sur where it's even more expensive, but it's it's noticeably more expensive than Managua, Masaya, Leon, Chinandega, Esteli, Matagalpa, Rivas, Jinotega, and so forth. But you'll be fine for a couple of weeks. I mean, you'll probably be fine for forever, but you'll be fine for a couple of weeks. Get that level of comfort. Get the tourist thing out of your system. Don't go travel around from there. Maybe Masaya, but just the tiniest bit. Then use that time in Granada, probably the first few days, just to be like, I'm in a new country. This is exciting, and do those things. As soon as you get that out of your system enough, start looking for a long-term place in Managua. And I often don't recommend Managua, but as a base for exploring, it's the best. It's by far the best for exploring Nicaragua. It's also the best within Nicaragua for exploring the region. One, it does have the only airport. So if you're going to fly to Costa Rica, Panama, or El Salvador, the 3 places you can in the region go directly to. You can go directly to Mexico, but we're not considering that the region. So there's a lot of I feel like going places. That's where you would go from if you're going by plane. If you're going by bus, it's also a hub to nearly every bus line. Even if it's not the origination point, it's along the route. It is central in the country. So it's the middle of Nicaragua, and it's the middle of Central America. It kind of works out in a lot of ways. So as a bus hub, it allows you to get to everywhere in Central America, except for Belize, of course, by bus relatively easily. Now, some of them are really long, but cheap and easy is definitely the case. So you have both flights and bus taking you throughout the region with minimal effort. That's if you're going internationally. If you're looking to explore Nicaragua, which obviously you'll want to do while here, there's nowhere easier to get to Nicaragua, other parts of Nicaragua, than Managua. Nearly every major community in the country has some public transportation and often some private transportation hubbed to Managua. If you're there, it's really easy to get anywhere. And so, especially if you don't want to drive, being in a spot where it's easy to take public transportation to, say, the UCA terminal or Wembe bus terminal or the airport, right? You're going to be in a great position, and it's easy to take taxis around the city. The city's not that big, so being in a probably in most cases a nicer area on the southeast side of the city will do really well. Downtown is a little bit more convenient if you're doing a ton of travel, but for expats, especially those looking for a softer landing, you're going to find that the southeast side is a little bit more accommodating to foreigners. More like neighborhoods you're used to, styles that don't feel so foreign, more people speak English, and so forth. Downtown, it'll just be a lot more of a hardcore Nicaraguan experience. So I would say, honestly, Managua is the choice. Are there other things that will work? Yes, Granada will work. Masaya will definitely work. Leon could pull it off. Matagalpa even, kinda, right? But most of those start getting decently far from the airport, farther from bus hubs. So every little thing you want to do to explore generally adds an extra hop or two. And the difference between I want to go see another place. Well, I'm just going to go out the door, get in the bus, and off to that place, versus I've got to get to Managua, which may take several hours, then figure out the scheduling to match those different things and get from where that bus leaves me off to the airport or to this other bus station. There's just a lot more extra moving parts, and that adds up. And so for those looking to explore, Managua is a great answer. Sorry, it feels very dry and dusty. It's not, but it's like I do have the air conditioning running, which makes it drier, and just makes me start coughing. But I spent most of the day not too bad. But now that I'm home and sitting for a second, Julian Martinez wrote, "Thank you for taking your time. You're an inspiration to many people." Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate that. Brent says the Managua Airbnb looked super nice. Oh my gosh, I love that place. I almost booked it for tonight because it's available. Not the same unit. 4 is the one I was in, and 9 is available tonight, maybe others. And I was like, do my kids want to go to Managua with me? And I checked with them, and they're both like, no. Because it was very last minute, right? So, I'm not taking them to Managua. I am just running Marcella to the hospital, and probably coming right back or staying for a little bit in the ER and then coming back, but not going to be there for a long time. So that's it's too bad. Because it's nice when we can, and they're like, we want to go to Managua, but not late on a Saturday, not with you going to a hospital for an indefinite amount of time. But I did look, and that was the Airbnb I was going to grab because I think it's within $5 of the hotel we normally use, right? But the hotel is one room with 2 double beds, and that one was it 2 queens or was it a queen and a double, but with 2 separate bedrooms and all that living room space. What a great deal. And honestly, I think the neighborhood's better. Like, my kids went walking with me to different things from there. They didn't love that, but they did. Tony says, 13 degrees feels like -7. That's just awesome. Tiffany does great things. Ola, Scott, loving all these more modern Airbnb and hotels you've been visiting recently. Thanks for the content. Thank you. I really enjoy them, too, and I'm glad that I'm getting a chance to show them. I do want to point out, this is a good, Tiffany, this is a good segue because this occurred to me this morning. I do obviously really like doing that content, and I do love modern buildings. I'm actually not a fan of colonial structures across the board anywhere in the world. I very much appreciate the fact that places keep them as a museum. I don't think they should go away. I do appreciate historic zones and zoning for that and architectural heritage and all those things. But one of the things I love in Latin America is I like Latin American modern. That is not a real thing. I made that up. But I like modern styles as they are found in Latin American architecture quite often. And I like modern and European and American and other things too, right? It's not unique to Latin America, but typically what I find in Latin America when they are modern places tend to be places I find quite comfortable, both in living style and in external aesthetic. And so the apartment that we showed is a great example of that. That is a style that I find very comfortable living in. And that place, for example, I've talked about this a lot and I've never shown it. That place that I showed in that video that Tiffany is mentioning and that was mentioned in the comment that I was reading is very similar in every aspect to the high-rise apartment. So adjust, instead of walking out into a pool, walk out to an elevator. To the high-rise apartment that we had in 2015 in Panama, in Rio Hato, Panama. I absolutely loved it. I love that lifestyle. I love the modernity. I love the big glass windows. That one didn't have to have frosted glass because we were on the 6th floor. So it was just beautiful vistas. On one side of the apartment looked right out to the Pacific, and the other looked out at El Valle, at the extinct volcano, out across the jungle. So you have this long, flat plain of jungle, and then this giant volcano, and it was so cool. Such a cool thing. I love the apartment. I love the location. I love the views. It was fantastic. And Panama is just a wonderful place to live. I love that. So in general, there's these modern, whether it's built modern or modern adaptations in Latin America, tend to be things I like a lot. And in Managua, we tend to get them. Here in Leon, we specifically are missing them compared to most of the other cities. So we have the least of it here, which drives me crazy. And so when I get a chance to be at them and show them, I really like it. But I wanted to note, here in Sutiava, we're technically outside the colonial zone. Leon is the colonial city. The municipality of Sutiava is technically not Leon, and the Leon colonial zoning laws don't cross the semaforo, right? Once you hit the street light that separates Leon from Sutiava, all those things drop away. We're an indigenous community that predates Leon. We're very old. Leon just celebrated 500 years last year. Sutiava is much closer to 1,000, right? So this is very interesting because you notice that you go from a bunch of colonial structures to kind of just older structures, but not like maintained like a museum the way the Leon is, but also where there is empty lots or new construction going on, people are ripping out, and my head of hospitality just bought one of these, where they rip out one of these big housing lots that traditionally was like this old little house with a big backyard that you're like, oh, there's a big yard behind that house. I would never have guessed, but those lots are huge, right? They just the house is tiny because that's all they could afford. Well, those are being ripped out, and people are putting walls around them and putting modern houses like in the back with big front yard, like completely different structures than what we're used to in Nicaragua. But they're not American structures. This is not being built by foreigners. These are being built by Nicaraguans who are using Latin American modern architecture designs to put in modern houses in the middle of the city. Here in Sutiava, they're able to do it right in the middle of the city, right downtown. They're just popping up. And I saw a new one this morning. I was picking up a friend of mine, a social media influencer who was doing some work at the beach, picked him up, and as I was going to his house, right behind Calisan, so just 2-3 blocks from Marcella's house, is someone took out an old nothing city house, and I'm talking like we're talking houses worth like $10,000-$15,000. Someone knocked it down and is putting in condos in the space with front wall, open, beautiful, like yard. I mean, it's not done yet, so I assume it's going to be beautiful, like really nicely done with multiple buildings in the back that are completely modern and enclosed. And instead of relying on the wind to cool them down, they're designed to be air conditioned. So these new things are starting to pop up. And as Nicaragua goes to a much, much larger middle class, there's people to buy these, right? Janet says, I'm here working right now. Expat says, hey everyone, I'm taking Diego's advice and started watching some videos in Spanish. Awesome. Tiffany says, hoping all is well with Marcelita. Yeah, I'm pretty confident that it is. Pneumonia is going around. I have it. Almost everyone we know has it. It's quite bad. And and for almost everyone, it's lingering quite some time. And we seem to have proven, whatever that means, that it is viral and not bacterial because no one is getting better who has taken antibiotics is improving. They all seem to get worse. And those who are not taking antibiotics seem to be getting better faster. So that seems to be the trend, right? So it doesn't seem to be streptococcal based. She obviously has diminished lung response and is very susceptible to a lot of things because of her surgery and her chemo and her radiation, but mostly the surgery and having just finished a 1.5-year battle with cancer. So of course she has this pulmonary whatever infection going on, and of course it's hitting her harder than other people. So that's causing her to have a real panic that it's her cancer and her amoebic infection returning. While plausible, that's extremely unlikely and would be outrageously coincidental, given that everybody is sick and she's sick in the same way. The chances that it's something else are low. However, I've had my appendix rupture at a time where everyone had the stomach flu that day, and the doctors didn't believe me that it was appendicitis, and they let it rupture, and were going to let me die to cover up the malpractice, because this was in the U.S., of course. And so I know that those things happen, right? I'm very, very aware that it could actually just be a coincidence, and it's bad timing, and it's masking it, but the chances are low. But we're going to head into Managua and go to Militar just in case. Tiffany says, just finished watching a U.S. couple moving to Panama here on YouTube. Small world. The U.S. has that same viral respiratory issues going on. Nika isn't alone. Oh, yeah. It didn't occur to me that it would be. Of course it is. Especially with this polar vortex. Everybody's stuck inside and feeling sick. Expat says viral. I just read the other day, gets better with rest. Well, that's definitely true, and I'm definitely not getting enough. So that's a major reason why I'm not feeling great. And now I'm running to and from Managua after a very long day already, having 2 nights in a row of not even close to enough sleep. 4 hours last night, 3 hours the night before. So much work to do. Tiffany says, I've been pushing oregano oil to everyone I know. It does wonders. But I don't like oregano, you see. Why can't it be rosemary oil or peppermint oil? Sorry, it's 24 minutes late. I was busy watching you in one of your other videos. Well, thank you. Once again, I'm going to remind people that we are only going until my phone hits 100%. It's at 96, so it does slow down at this, but I'm only here charging my phone, and I'm off to the hospital with Marcella. That is all we are doing. So, and she is not feeling well. So part of her problem is she's been coughing so much and so hard that it causes her to vomit. And so she has not been able to keep down meals for several days. And that means she's somewhat depleted on fluids and certainly depleted on nutrients. And she doesn't have a lot of buffer since she's been doing the cancer treatments. And so it's, you can really hear that diesel behind me. Hopefully they're being careful because the cats are out there. No one ever takes that truck. And so those people don't know to look out for our cats. It's not our cats. They're our cats now, but they're just all the strays from our neighborhood that we took in. So hopefully the cats ran away because I fear that the neighbors are not in any way cautious, and that would be bad. Because the cats love to play in the garage and in the driveway. And there's 5 of them. So it's a bit. What was I saying? I don't know. I'm very tired. That is definitely the case. I'm hoping that I'm able to get back quickly from Managua and am not falling asleep. I am taking a laptop with me, just in case, plus a change of clothes. I've not checked how many people we have on. $13. Expat says, nice Airbnb, but a bit pricey. I don't think it's actually pricey. If you compare, so first of all, in that neighborhood, that is an extremely expensive neighborhood. That's the Beverly Hills of Nicaragua. So, so that's really not so expensive. And when you consider comparing that to a hotel room, hotel rooms in the tier down neighborhood, in a much less well, not much less, in a slightly less desirable location, but a better known hotel, but getting a single room with 2 smaller beds, you're looking at a difference of only about $10. So getting a slightly upgraded location, a slightly more expensive location, and going from 2 smaller beds to 2 larger beds, from 1 bedroom to 2 bedrooms, from no living room to living room, from no kitchen to kitchen, from hotel pool to private pool, well, private for 11 units, going from open to the public because it's a hotel to guarded and private courtyard, from tight space to large space. The difference of $10, I think, is easily justified. I actually think that the apartment was a pretty decent deal, considering where it is and how nice the place is. I know in a lot of other places, right, an apartment similar to that would be quite a bit less, but there are 2 or 3 like this in the country. This is not something that has competition here, so it's going to demand quite a bit of premium just naturally because of that. But those those types of things that are very hard to find here. They cost more to construct because there's no volume to it. So like that in Bolivia certainly would be cheaper. That in Colombia certainly would be cheaper because it's something they build all the time. Here, there's only one or two of them that you're going to find, so it's going to be more expensive. Tiffany says, the Las Colinas Hotel looks a lot like a larger version of my home prior to the random freeze that killed so many of my plants. Oh, that sucks. Expat says, it's very nice. How much is the single person's version of that? I don't know that there is one. Single person travel is not a popular thing in Nicaragua, and so the number of hotels and things that are designed to accommodate that, very few. It's honestly, it barely exists as a thing, which I really dislike because in many cases you want to just travel on your own for the weekend, or maybe my wife and I want to travel somewhere for the weekend, and when we're doing that, of course there are ways to find things, right? I'm not saying that nothing exists, but it is very much the case that we will often struggle to find a room that isn't just 6 beds shoved into a room wall to wall, and you're like, okay, but we needed one, right? Like, it would be nice sometimes to pay the same price and have a room that's comfortable for a couple, rather than only rooms that are designed for families, seeing how many of their kids they're able to cram into one room. I totally appreciate the need of larger Nicaraguan families to have a place to go that is cheap, and so everyone is accommodating for that. And I know, as a hotelier, my wife will not allow us to have hotel rooms that don't have loads and loads of beds in them. One of my viewers, two of my viewers, are staying in my own apartment here, and I hate it because, yes, the master bedroom is just a king bed and it's super comfy, but the living room, instead of being a gorgeously appointed living room with couch and chairs and TV, no, it's 2 bunk beds and a single extra bed shoved into what should have been the living room, so it has the potential to be this really amazing honeymoon apartment, waterfront, big outdoor living room, indoor living room, all kinds of, it's perfect. But instead, it's meant for families to cram in a bunch of kids, which, hey, if you're taking your kids with you, that's great. But I don't know how much my kids don't want to do that either, right? They want to go to an Airbnb, like I showed, and have their own room with nice bed, not bunk beds and single beds and everyone having a camp out. Nicaraguans have different needs. I'm not saying that it isn't the business thing that makes sense. I'm just saying that as a North American, it's really disappointing that those things mostly don't exist, and it's rough. If you want to find one, you may really struggle. So Airbnbs might just be a small room you can rent. When you're traveling single, you tend to be looking at hostel rooms and room rentals and student things. Extremely little accommodation for 1 and 2 person traveling groups who are looking for something that would naturally fit 1 or 2 people. Edgar from Nicaragua says, greetings, Scott. I hope you get better soon. Thank you. Me too. I am feeling pretty decent. It does make me more tired, which is rough because I have to drive, but I don't feel all that bad. We're at 97%. For anyone who's joined us late, I am live streaming only until my phone is charged, and then I am heading out to Managua because Marcella is sick and we're taking her to the hospital, and I'm probably coming straight back because my kids are waiting to hang out with me. So that is what we're doing. We're live streaming until then, so hopefully not too much longer, given that my phone is mostly charged. Also making sure that it's up to date before I go anywhere. Not what I meant to do. It is. So, I will check my email while I'm sitting here. I'm not looking forward to this drive. Janet says, I was looking for your link for my student because we were talking about Stranger Things, and it made me think of you. Aw. It's a Saturday afternoon. You guys are very slow. Let's see if we have anything else in the community. Nothing yet. Rivethead242 just said, that's funny. I was talking about... Oh, just seeing ongoing conversation. Rivethead said, that's funny. My ex-boss from Albany used to tell me I sounded like folks from the Finger Lakes or even Plattsburgh. Go figure, since I'm Nicaraguan. Anyway, go Patriots. Oh, wow, that's really weird. Wait. Okay. I'm going to go back. Sorry, I've got to get a link. And we're going to go back. Okay, we're going back to FODRoyer2NPC because he had multiple comments on a similar topic. He said a week ago, what's the yield? This is related to his, can he get a multi-unit? What's the yield of properties in Nicaragua? I've heard it's about 6 to 11 to 13% if it's a really good investment. I'm targeting 10 to 11%, and I don't know if more is possible. I said, no, that's really not possible. I said, did he watch the videos on should you invest? He said, sorry, I meant in renting gains. Obviously, I want to buy and rent for several decades. I do not see any benefits to sell properties here, and I know the real estate market is falling as there are no buyers. So this I know less, right? So if you are buying a house and trying to flip it, even over a period of 5 years, right? We're not saying your house flipping, that'd be super silly. But even if you're thinking you're going to buy a house and sell it in 5 to 10 years, you could end up in a situation where you are losing money, right? That's a very real possibility. That's how bad the rental market is. So be aware that you just may not be able to do that. That it's just a loss. So the rental market, though, he says, so he's talking about, can you rent out homes? So can it work? Yes, in theory, there are people who are renting things out and actually doing okay, right? This is what the heck? Sorry, checking a spam email to see what it is. So this is what we talked about with the multi-unit rental. If you were to invest in a place, most people are renting out to hedge against their losses. Most people in Nicaragua are not buying houses in order to rent them out. They already own houses that are not being used and so offer them for rent in order to help cover their losses. If you look at the Airbnb market, this gives you an idea that there are a few Airbnbs that do okay, but by and large, most Airbnbs have zero reviews, even though they've been listed for years. This tells you that no one's rented them, most likely, or one or two people. Many places say never have been rented, and you look and it's got many years that it's been available. Now, that's just one piece of the market, of course. But if you look at average places on even the beach, right? I was at a place today. Over its lifespan, is it making money? No, it's losing money, right? And they're not trying to flip it. They're not trying to make money from renting out places. They're renting out places to offset their losses, right? They're living off of retirement and just trying to make it go a little bit farther and give them something to do. That's fine. But is it profitable? No. And does it qualify for investment? No, it's not big enough. Doesn't have enough staff, has no staff. Now, if it's not making money with no staff, imagine how hard it would be to make money with staff. Could it be done? Again, yes, it can happen, but very, very difficult. Do I know of anyone getting 11 to 13%? No, I've never heard of that. Can it happen? Yes, but if that was happening, right, if there was any reasonable amount of that, a couple things would happen. What he said was, now this is tough. What's the yield? I've heard 6 to 13% if it's a really good investment. Well, that's probably true. If we define a really good investment by being, I have said this many times on the show, you have to be at least 11% to be considered a really good investment. So we're using the definition of really good investment to say you could get this much if it's that much. So that kind of goes without saying, so it isn't a good indicator. But what is the real numbers for normal investment? So I don't think it's anywhere near those numbers. And the reason is, if you came close to that, if you had any reliability that you could get 9%, which is not a really good investment, that's just a good investment. That's a baseline investment. If you were able to get that reliably, then you would have people jumping on it as a way to hedge against investment in other countries. Because it's a very good growing economy here. They think property will come up eventually. There's a lot of protections. So that would make a very good investment where you get to use it and enjoy owning it and a lot of things, compared to a fund or something where it's just your money goes there and sure, it does okay, but you don't get to enjoy that money, right? That would be fantastic. So if you had 9% out there with any regularity, that would make an outrageously popular investment, which in turn would make the real estate market explode, right? The reason that people aren't buying houses is that they can't get 9% or close to it, right? It's the lack of being able to get that is keeping the market down. I'm not saying that people are making nothing, but if you're not making 9%, you're losing, right? So compared to an index fund in the United States. So are you going to be able to get that? Somebody somewhere has gotten it. Yes. But from what I hear, the biggest investments, all these things, they're not. And if you go to like San Juan del Sur and find very nice hotels in prime locations, why are they selling? Why are they all selling? If they were making 9%, they would never sell, right? No one in their right mind offloads a 9% return property unless they magically have a certain opportunity to make a way higher percentage and zero ability to borrow money, which basically can't happen, either of those things. But if they could, okay, maybe I'd offload something that was making really good money so I could make amazing money, if that was really true. But under normal circumstances, if you own a place that has a really good return, you magically get, you can get other investors, you can get loans, you have ways to raise money. You're just making money as part of it. So it's extremely, extremely niche to imagine anyone would sell a place that was able to bring in anything close to 9%. So that they're all for sale tells you Sure, if it was one place we couldn't use it, it would be anecdotal. But statistically, we know beyond a shadow of a doubt, almost no one is getting that. And the places that are getting that only are able to get it because no one else is in business, right? If one place is open and 9 are closed, that one is able to bring in much more money than any of those others. Because if one of those others opens, twice as many places are open. And that means more competition, lower prices, or fewer customers, right? You have 100 customers that are going to go eat at restaurants. You have 10 restaurants. 9 are closed. The one that's open will get 100 customers. If a second one opens, they don't magically get 200 customers. There's 100 customers to share between them. Maybe it's 50-50, maybe one of them's way better than the other and it's off balance. But the point is there's on average just 50 per restaurant, not 100 per restaurant, right? So that's where, yes, the few places that are still open might get somewhere roughly less than 9%, and somebody may get 9%. But with any regularity, as people invest, that is harder and harder for people to hit. Everybody ends up taking a little bit smaller piece of the same pie. There isn't a high demand of people to rent. There is some demand, right? But there isn't a super high demand. So just having a rental generally doesn't do a lot for you. You need to have something unique. You need to be in a unique location. You need to have a unique offering. You need to have a unique marketing channel. Even with those, you're still, very unlikely to do well, but at least you have something to be a hook. Are you waiting to ask me something? I'm on my live stream. I do not have time to eat. I'm sorry. So I don't think that we're very likely for these things to be true. No one really knows. So very importantly, if someone is saying, these numbers are average, no one knows, right? The government doesn't know. No agency knows. But these sound like salesman numbers. These sound like maybe a real estate agent was involved. These are wildly inflated on average. But stated in such a way that they would be true, right? Well, it could be 13% if it's a really good investment. Yes, anything that's 13 would be a really good investment. Are there any out there? Well, if you got that, they would be really good. Yes, I understand it's self-fulfilling. It's worded in such a way that it doesn't mean anything. But most places that have been well established, have really good track records, should be bringing in some of the best returns around, have all long ago paid down all their debt. Often we see them running their businesses into the ground. One of the most popular hotels and restaurants in this region is letting itself fall apart. It can't pass code. It doesn't have any build standards. We know a good wind is going to blow the whole place over, and they're just riding it out. Once it falls down, and they're done. And they're just getting the last little bits of money out of it because it's not profitable enough to be worth repairing the building, right? That's very telling. All these indicators are consistently telling. You don't have the ability to have good returns on rentals when the market is super low. It just can't be, because as soon as you have the ability to get those returns, the market comes up until you don't have the ability to get those returns anymore. It's a self-balancing thing. You could momentarily have an arbitrage where that is true, but this is not an arbitrage situation. This has been 10 plus years. The market is simply depressed, and you can't have a long-term depression in the market with loads of inventory and maintain high rentals, right? Because there's an unlimited number of places that people would just buy. And if you think about it, well, I'm going to rent out a small unit. I'm going to get some long-term renters in there. I'll get them to pay me $400 a month, right? Where are you going to find that person if they could take that $400 a month and just turn it into, $10,000, which if they're coming from outside the country, they probably can. Now they can go buy a place, right? Maybe not a great place, but a place that's probably just as nice as your $400, but now they own it, right? So it's when you can buy a place in 2 years of rental, it throws things really off. So I don't think you're going to find those. Or it's an unbelievable long shot. That's the math just doesn't hold up is my thinking. And especially, right, most rentals, and this is the thing that we're going to combine this with the other thing you said, and I did say this before. If you're looking at, let's say, to make the math easy, I'm not saying these are the numbers you're saying at all. Let's say it's a $100,000 investment. On a $100,000 investment, to get a 13% yield, you need to get back, well, let's do a 10% yield to make it super easy. You need to get back $10,000 per year off of that property. That would be reasonable in a healthy market with a good investment. And you own something, right? Like you get control of it. There's a lot of advantages there, and you get write-offs because of that or whatever. And it's fun. Now, here, people are not able to get those kinds of returns even if they work the property themselves, generally, right? So that's, to be a true 10% return, you can't be managing it, right? I mean, you can, but you have to be paid a full salary the same as you would pay someone else to work on it, and not include that in the percentage return, or else it's a fake number, right? For it to be an investment return, it has to be that rather than just your salary, just something you're working on. People do that all the time. We have videos about how people do that and fudge the numbers, and that may be what you're saying. Someone may be taking a salary of $6,000 to $8,000 per year, which probably you just heard that and said that's a ridiculously low number. You're right, that is a ridiculously low number. And then there are places bringing in a profit of $2,000 to $3,000 per year, and they're combining the two, a ridiculous low profit, which would technically be a loss by investment standards, a big loss by investment standards, and a salary so low that it would be considered donating your time, and merging the two and lying about them being a return to make it sound like there's a reasonable return when there's neither a reasonable return nor is it able to pay its bills in reality. Take that and then combine it with, you have to, for the residency, that is what's driving you to do this, have to pay at least 2 people. So that means before you calculate your 10% profit, you have to pay out, we'll just make the numbers very round, $500 per month. It's actually higher, but that will be approximate, right? So $6,000 per year. So that property that already probably couldn't bring in $10,000 per year, you now needed to bring in $16,000 per year just to barely pay minimum wage on your required people. And that doesn't include that you're running it as a business, so you have to incorporate a business. That's going to cost you a few $1,000s. Now, it's only up front. You're going to have to maintain accountants and lawyers. That's not that bad for a small business, but it has to come off the top. You have to deal with all your paperwork with the government. Again, not hard, but all these have small costs. Now, nowhere as big as your employment cost, so that's $6,000 a year. Maybe per year, this is only another $1,000. These things add up when we're talking about such tight numbers. And now you're talking about a $1,000 business in which, and this is again merging 2 different posts that he did, where you're hoping to live in it and make it your home, plus have enough left over to be a business that's maybe you're not including the home portion in the investment calculation. Great, that's the correct way to do it. But I think it's extremely, extremely, extremely hard to imagine approaching these numbers. Does that mean it's the wrong thing to do? No. Maybe it gives you the residency you need, and it hedges against a loss, and it creates some jobs, and that makes you happy, and those are good things. And maybe there's lots of good reasons to do it, right? But profits almost certainly are not it, right? And just to give you an idea, right? A place that cost $100,000 to build, you have to include the land, right? So that's, let's say, an $80,000 house on a $20,000 lot. This is something that I have some experience with. Kind of your best case scenario is bringing in something like $2,000 a month, right? That's if you're really managing well on Airbnb. That's if you are having high turnover, you're in a very desirable spot. $2,000 a month. That means you have potentially $24,000 coming in per year. But if you're doing that, you're paying the electric, which could be as high as $1,000 a month. You've got to pay for the water. You've got to pay for the maintenance. You've got to pay for that staff you have to have, and all of that. Your actual potential profits on something where you're only able to bring in $2,000 a month, that's an average over the course of a year, is far less than half, right? So if you were able to build a standard home at this price that I gave as an example, I would say that hitting that 10% number is all but impossible as profit, right? And that's not including you living in it at all. Now, if you're dealing with 20 homes, you're talking about $1 million investment, and so those 2 staff are much smaller percentages of the whole. Things like that, you can potentially get a little bit better, but then you're creating something so large you're competing with yourself. You may have 20, 30, 50 rooms available, but the market only has 5 or 6 people looking to rent. That's a real problem. Even I, with just a few rooms, already are cannibalizing our own customers. There just aren't that many customers, so our few hotels compete with each other, and of course everyone else, but they noticeably compete with each other. One would be full, but 2 are open, so both are at 2/3 capacity, right? And it's like, oh no, if we open more rooms, there's no one to put in them, right? So it is true that if you build more rooms, more people do show up to some degree, but not very much. And so really think about, just run the numbers, right? Start with, okay, I have to pay, realistically, it's not $250. Like the minimum you pay per person is much closer to $350 per month. So $700 a month, every month, whether you're open or closed, you're gonna have to pay. Think about all the money you put in up front. Think about any cost there is until you're open. How many months are you gonna lose before you're open? And then start saying, okay, how much do we want to spend? Is it $30,000, $50,000, $100,000, $1 million? What does a 10% return mean? Okay, on $1 million, that means I have to bring in $100,000 per year. How much do I have to charge to do that? What kind of rates and occupancy rates do I have to get to be able to do that? And I think you'll, in most cases, be able to answer this for yourself and say, oh, that's really, really not good. And remember, if you aren't waiting the 2 years and putting in a tremendous amount of research, very likely you will buy units at many times their market rate. And so if you're buying a place for $300,000 that's only worth $80,000, and that's a very realistic number to be off by, your ability to make money is off the $80,000, not the $300,000. Your actual value of investment is only $80,000. And so it's not like you spend a bunch and you're like, oh, I wish I could have spent less, but at least, we get this return. The return isn't generated. It doesn't care how much you actually spent. It only cares what the property's worth. So you will be with a $300,000 place that no one's interested in because that's why they sold it to you. And no one else could make a go of it, right? And again, the reason that places are available is because no one's been able to get these kinds of numbers before. So, or they don't believe that they could. So if the Nicaraguans they don't have to hire those extra people, they often need jobs and so would happily build a place. Keep in mind, a Nicaraguan, if you're looking at, I want this house and I want to get a 10% return, and a Nicaraguan can look and say, I would build or buy the same house. And if it pays for me to be the maintenance guy and gets a 0 return, that would be okay with me because I can't get a job, right? Because there's not enough jobs. So Nicaraguans will do things just to get jobs. They have different requirements than you. So that tells you if they're not opening those buildings that they already own, that their ability to make that money is generally not there. Yours is going to be so much harder. I'm going to jump over and see what you guys have said because I haven't been looking at it for a while. Tiffany says, get some sun, vitamin D, and breathing exercises unless the hospital will give you a spirometer. We were actually in the sun all day on the beach. I'm actually quite sunnied out. Jan says, I have classes. I've got 2 more in a row after this. I hope everything goes well and quickly for Marcella. Tiffany says, an incentive spirometer to be specific. Janet says, hi, and now I have to go to another class. Expat says, great. Are you the teacher? She is. I have to catch up. I was busy watching ads. Iskorkasahun says, hi, Scott. Good to see you. What's the weather looks like in Nicaragua? Toronto is super cold now. We're a little bit on the cool side, but we got a few drops of rain, which is cool. We're warm. Like, we're pretty warm today. Janet says, yes, I think we're like 89. Yes, teaching English at EF Online. Just now more students than there were in the last 6 months. Not sure why. Expat says, oh, I would like to chat about that, Janet, when you have time. Silver J56 says, hey, Scott and crew, Southwestern Nicaraguan, checking in. Another beautiful day in almost paradise. Awesome. Glad to have you here. 29 degrees C on the shores of the warm Pacific. A nice breeze blowing. No complaints. We're definitely over 29 here. What vlogging camera do I recommend? That really depends on the vlogging you're doing. If you're walking around like me, I want something simple and flexible. I really love the GoPro 13. It's not that expensive, very durable, super easy to use. Just works. I do use the media attachment with the external mic and the dead cat, the foam thing that goes over that combination with a stick from I'll have to look up. It's a stick that everyone buys. It's like the perfect stick. It's like, I don't know, $10. But it's not from GoPro. It's a third-party stick. Everybody uses it. It's fantastic. I have 2 of them. I have 3 GoPros now. I sold one to April. So I've got the 11, 12, and 13. I use the 12 and 13 almost all the time. The 11's a little bit flaky. It's old. But I have the 2 of the exact same sticks. They turn into a little tripod. So you can use it as a tripod or you can carry it around as a stick. It's the perfect thing for cheap. But depending on the scenario, there are other vlogging cameras. So save vlogging camera details for our next live, and I'll dig into. I know every camera, every combination. Like, I've tried everything, every vendor. But my quick for the kind of things I do: walking around, getting it in the yard, sunny days, easy to deal with, driving a car. The GoPro is the way to go. It's just so easy, and the GoPro Cloud is such a significant feature that I've never heard anybody explain. It's so significant, it outweighs all other factors. So that's the biggest thing. Sarah says, I had lunch yesterday with my Nika friend at his casa. It was culture shock, muy primitivo. Life is hard for the common natives in the small villages. It definitely is. Is Nika ready for another crazy expat? I'm a coming Permanente in Junio. Congratulations. All right, guys, I'm at 100%. I've got to get Marcella to the hospital. Hopefully I will be back tonight, not on the stream or anything, just back home, hopefully in 5 hours. We are heading to Militar to get her tests and stuff, and we're out of here. So thanks so much, everyone, for joining me. I really appreciate it, and I will see